Tokala was only 17 winters old. He lived in peace beside his family at the beginning of the 19th century, in a land where the cold never asked permission to arrive. There, winter could break bones, harden rivers, and silence entire forests. But the warmth of his people always endured. And when I speak of family, I do not mean only father, mother, and blood siblings. In Tokala's clan, everyone was family. Everyone cared for one another as a single living fire. And like a true Lakota, Tokala could never stay still. He was always beside his brothers, helping however he could. Hunting, fishing, gathering firewood, patrolling the forest. And when there was nothing left to do in his own village, he crossed to the nearest neighboring clan to help them as well. Which nearly earned him a new name. The one who eats in two houses. Always said with laughter. But deep down, that was also an excuse to see the Cree girls. Perhaps to find a wife. After all, he could not marry someone from his own clan. And that is how everything began. That day, Tokala was tracking a rabbit when he heard a soft sound in the bushes ahead. It was not the animal. It was hands gathering fruit. He gently parted the branches and saw her, a pretty young woman. She startled at first, but as soon as she recognized him, the fear dissolved into a calm, welcoming smile. Tokala was known not only for his strength, he was kind to children. He helped the elders with heavy work. He always brought part of his hunt to those in need. In the neighboring village, the unmarried girls had been watching him for a long time. He, of course, noticed nothing. He was as thick as a fallen log. The young woman said nothing. She simply stepped closer and offered him some fruit directly from her own hand, not from the woven basket. Tokala accepted, and her smile shone brighter for a moment. Then she simply turned and left without a word. Tokala stood there, not understanding anything that had just happened. But he returned to his village that afternoon with a foolish smile on his face, and completely forgot about the rabbit he had been tracking. He had no idea he had just been evaluated for marriage. That very night, Tokala's world ended. They were attacked without warning. White men mounted on horseback. The sentries had no time to warn the clan. They shot everyone, men, women, children, without choosing age, without choosing face. One of the attackers shouted something in his own language.
No witnesses.
But no one there understood those words. When Tokala left his teepee, everything was already in flames. He took up his bow, struck down 2. The third came from behind. The blow of the rifle stock struck the left side of his head. Tokala heard the crack of bone breaking and collapsed. Before losing consciousness completely, his eyes still saw his mother tying him onto Mistahi, the horse who had been with him since childhood. She struck the animal's flank, sending it racing toward the other village. And then there was silence and darkness. When Tokala awoke, the first thing he saw was the face of the young woman from the forest. It was Sakari. The light was still there, but now fear lived beside it. She held his hands gently and asked what had happened. Tokala raised his hand to his head. He felt the cloth wrappings, the paste of herbs and resin, the strong scent of healing. He had 1,000 things to say, but when he opened his mouth, nothing came out. He tried again, but still, nothing. Inside, he was screaming, "You must flee! They are still nearby!" But his mouth returned only broken sounds. Desperate, Tokala rose, stumbled out of the teepee, pointed toward his village, babbling everything except the words he needed to speak. Sakari ran to him.
"You cannot go back yet. The wound can reopen."
And she understood his persistence in the only way her world allowed. This was not just a wounded body. It was a spirit in disorder. She took him to one of the elders. The old woman listened to his sounds, studied his eyes, touched his forehead, and said, "His voice has hidden itself. His spirit still walks between night and dawn." She performed chants, smoke rituals, and healing rites. Nothing brought his speech back. Tokala cried for the first time. Then the elder looked at Sakari and at Tokala. She noticed the way their eyes searched for one another. There was worry there, and care, and something else, still unnamed, but already alive. The elder remained silent for a long moment. Then she turned to Sakari and asked her to remain responsible for caring for him. In the days that followed, Sakari visited him constantly. She invented silent games. They played the hidden hand game, the painted bones. And sometimes she painted small symbols on his hand and let him guess by drawing the same symbol on hers. During one of those games, their hands remained touching longer than necessary, and neither of them pulled away. Tokala had found the one he wished to share his life with, and in her eyes, he saw she felt the same. And that was exactly why he could no longer remain there, lying still, waiting for the worst to come. He had lost his family, but Tokala had 2 homes, and one could still be saved. That night he waited for Sakari to leave. He slipped from the teepee in silence, approached Mistahi, stroked the horse's chest, as he always did, to calm him. The animal recognized him and departed into the forest together. But just before dawn, Mistahi began to breathe heavily, to whinny weakly, and collapsed. Tokala rushed to him, That was when he saw the wound, an infected gunshot wound, hidden behind the leg. Mistahi had been shot on the night of the attack as he fled the village with Tokala. Tokala caressed his chest. Normally, he would have sung, but he had no voice. He looked into the horse's eyes, and there he found no suffering. He found serenity, gratitude. Memories flooded his mind of the first time he saw Mistahi, when he was still only a colt, already proud enough to throw off every other boy from the neighboring village who tried to mount him, and of the stunned faces of the Cree boys when Mistahi allowed Tokala to ride him without hesitation after he stroked his chest, and of how they had become inseparable from that day on. Mistahi himself seemed to relive those memories with him in those final moments, for tears fell from his eyes. Tokala dried them, lifting the horse's head onto his lap and stroking him. Then, as if satisfied, Mistahi closed his eyes, as though granting Tokala permission. The young man, though trembling with hesitation, delivered a precise blow to the animal's heart. Mistahi released only a low sound before his spirit left his body. With tears still streaming down his face, Tokala removed from his neck the fang pendant he wore proudly, taken from the first wolf he had ever hunted. During that hunt, one of the wolves had slashed Mistahi deeply with its claws, and the poor animal had taken weeks to fully recover. That victory had belonged as much to Tokala as to Mistahi, and Tokala felt it only right that his brother should carry that pendant with him on his new journey, so they might remain connected, even across the spirit world. Tokala used all his strength to gently pull Mistahi's body to a nearby hollow, covered him with snow and stone, and made one final silent prayer. With a new look upon his face, a severe look, a look filled with thirst for vengeance. Mistahi was not the only one buried in that grave. Along with him, Tokala buried his former village, his people, his parents, his family, and the boy he once was. Now, a voiceless man walked alone through the snow toward those monsters who still call themselves men, when in truth, they were worse than the wildest of beasts.